just, 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 just.
What my art practice is about is having situations in which I have opportunity to learn about things. And the way that that's sort of developed is that for the most part, institutions ask me to go places where they are. I mean, I think that I work differently than a lot of artists in that I work on commission and I work sort of on demand in a way, and so I don't have like a studio that I go to and sort of get in the mood or something like that, and instead it's sort of this feeling like wherever I go I have to be able to be creative and function in those ways. So I think that I've just adapted and gotten good at that, being able to like figure things out on the fly and based on the situations that I encounter. But there are a few things that I do if I feel stuck, or that I just do normally, I think. One of which is just to go for a walk, sort of like try to get my mind off of whatever the project is, and to just be paying attention to what it is that I'm seeing as I walk around. And then I've found that oftentimes ideas will occur to me while I'm doing that, while I'm sort of like getting my mind off of the thing I'm supposed to be focusing on. And
to quickly synopsize what happened here, which I don't know if I can actually quickly synopsize it. I'll do my best though. But so we started off with a question over in the art department, which was, without the bridge, what's the quickest way to walk to the other side of campus? And there were various sort of speculations on that, and a couple of rumors of people having done it, but not a lot of hard information. So we thought that an empirical process would be best. And so we headed out of the classroom, and through negotiation and sort of discussion, determined a direction, started following the bike path, checking periodically through the woods to see if there were any spots where we could jump across the river, and then eventually making our way to a bridge that we could cross, and then deciding to cut through the woods, hop over a creek. By this time we'd lost most of the class, but there were 3 intrepid students that stuck it out, and then through a cemetery and through town. The whole while I was getting a sort of running commentary on the history of the area and personal connections, and also random thoughts that were going on. And then eventually arrived here at the campus and got a quick tour with a couple of students, and wound up here as one of the stops. And we gravitated to the display of the clothes, and then looked at them and sort of discussed them for a while, and together came up with this idea, which was to create these other display cases with contemporary examples of clothing in them, just from this environment.
It would be interesting to put in people's clothes from just on the the clothes people are wearing on the campus right now into this case.
Like just taking their clothes, or?
Yeah, not like off of them immediately, but selecting different people whose clothes we thought were interesting, and then getting them to let us put them on these dress forms inside of the display.
It'd be interesting to see like how different but like similar people's outfits are like from the same day. Yeah.
What I've been doing so far is coming into a classroom, and then the class sort of stops functioning as it would normally function, and it's sort of my chance to sort of intervene into it. So I don't exactly know how the classes work without me there. It's this, there's this thing called the Heisenberg uncertainty theorem. Have you ever heard of that? Yeah. So, you know, like you're affecting the thing you're observing. And in a big way, that's happened to me. So I can't exactly say what it's like when I'm not here. My presence is drastically affecting the situation. But I think that that's been really interesting, that the school and the instructors and the students have been willing to allow this sort of outsider to sort of step in and make these suggestions and sort of go along with them and try them out. And one of the topics that we were going to try to address this time was sort of classroom strategies. Is within a class, sometimes I'll add in something that has nothing to do with the class. It'll be more of like a physical activity that I'm not very good at. And so that like maybe a student in the class happens to be really great at salsa dancing or something like that. So I'll have that person demonstrate to the group how to do that. And suddenly I will be, you know, just as bad at it as the worst student. And clearly the student is really good at it. And so the roles have changed drastically, and to see me sort of like fumbling around doing something like that, I think automatically sort of sets a tone for the class that I'm willing to sort of put myself in a position to where I let down all guard and can show that I'm willing, that I'm interested in learning something. So I usually like find things like that to sort of throw into a class that breaks down that idea of the expert and the authority. And then definitely by the time I was in graduate school, I was really like trying to work on systemic reform for the school and the program. And a lot of it worked, but I also got in trouble just constantly for doing it. And I continued to be in that position in my own school, constantly being reprimanded for doing what to me seems like kind of the right thing, like trying to sort of innovate and better the institution that I'm working in. To find something within the environment of the classroom itself, it could be really small, and then to reproduce it next to it. So it could be like an electrical outlet, or it could be a piece of tape or a tack, or a paint drip, or it could be a whole painting that's like mounted to the wall, or Xerox, or a piece of paper, or anything that you find. It does do two-dimensional things would be easier, but it doesn't have to be two-dimensional. And then just to paint it there next to it. Mm-hmm.
Mine was kind of interesting just because, like, I did that splotch of paint and it was unintentionally made, and then I was intentionally trying to make it.
And, like, depending on what angle you're looking at it from, you'll see it or you won't.
Right.
And then, like, from a certain angle, look like it's actually there. And then, you know, when you actually look around it from other perspectives, you can tell that's just a 2D piece of art. And so, like, with this task, it was kind of like the same idea. You have to capture from a perspective that people will be looking at it from to try and make it look realistic.
Well, that became sort of an interesting variation too, is how people
chose to depict it, because some people did it from their perspective, from where they were, and then other people were sort of trying to project as to what it would look like from a distance or something.
That's been really fun and nice for me to not be like responsible for a whole term of a class and like dealing with things like syllabus and grades and all that, and instead to be able to suggest things that don't normally happen maybe within a classroom, like that suddenly we go for a walk in the woods or go across the hallway to the TV station and find out what's going on with that, or start painting things that within the painting room and not on canvases and things. So all of that's been really fun, and you know, I think that the students, like pretty much anywhere, there's some students who are really engaged and interested, and that of course is more interesting for me. And then there are other students who aren't interested, or you know, are disengaged, and I don't know whether that's that they're just disengaged with what I'm doing, or they're disengaged in general. But that's okay too, you know, like I'm all right with that, and kind of expect it from having done a lot of this kind of thing, that there's just going to be different levels. I know that when I was a student, I had a couple of opportunities to be around or work with visiting artists or filmmakers or writers and things like that, and that those experiences had a pretty big impact on me. And it was that they were sort of from the outside. They weren't part of the normal class structure at the school. They didn't have that sort of baggage, and they could operate differently. And so those are some of the things that I think back about in my own education as being particularly meaningful. So I like to be in that situation too. It's hard for me to say whether or not that's happening to the extent that it happened to me as a student, whether I've ever done that. But it would be nice if that happened sometimes, I guess.
I left Bernardino with a 44 in my hand on an old plank highway across the burning sand. I met with justice and I robbed her blind. I'm not a good man, but I'm hard to find. Way out in the desert in a snakeskin tent where it looks like God forgot to pay the rent, but it suits me finer than anywhere else I go. On the corduroy road, for supper I catch fried fish in a lake of dust. Then I'll hit the mining town that went from boom to bust, where nooses and bullet holes pave the streets. There's ghost town ladies underneath the sheets. This last chance tavern gets so damn hot, you can drink your beer or watch it turn into a shot and toast the old prospector who blew his mother load on the corduroy road.
The idea of having a normal kind of 9-to-5 job was really terrifying to me. I think as a kid I was really afraid that I would wind up in a situation like that, and so it seemed like this was the way to get out of that and to have a life that was more consistent with the way I wanted to live. A friend of mine, when I was younger, we used to go on road trips together, and he had this saying, because when you go on a road trip, it's always sort of a mixed bag. You don't just have like always an amazing time. It's, you know, sometimes you're just driving, or you get to a town, everything's closed and you can't get any food that night, and you sleep in the car. Other times you have these amazing experiences or whatever. And so he would always say, after an experience, or even just a day or an afternoon, he would say, "It was good and bad, just like we like it."